Welcome to the 2013 Summer A basketball playoff meeting. I want to thank you guys for a great semester so far, both in basketball and in dodgeball. I know we made attitude and effort a priority at the beginning of the season in the clinics, and I definitely have seen that from this group so far, and I'm proud of that attitude and effort that I've seen. Guys and girls coming in for shifts that are not even scheduled to watch basketball and to learn and get better. So thank you for that. As you know, we are starting playoffs next week. The last day of the regular season will be Monday. The playoff draw will take place on Tuesday night, and playoff games start up Wednesday. So it's going to be a quick playoff run Wednesday, Thursday, and then playing next Sunday and throughout the rest of the week with the championship games on next Thursday. So we don't have much basketball left or dodgeball left for Summer A. It will wind down very quickly. The schedule is out for next week up through Thursday, and the schedule for Sunday through the following Thursday and the championship games will be up early next week. So please continue to check when to work. From here on out, if you do need a sub, so you need a substitute, you can't work your shift for some reason, instead of putting that up on the trade board, go ahead and email me so I can facilitate the substitute process as we move forward in the playoffs. We talked about in the last weekly email, playoff assignments will be based on experience as well as based on performance so far in this semester. And I've definitely seen especially the rookies make a lot of improvement, and I appreciate the veterans helping bring them along throughout the semester. And I've seen improvement from everyone, whether a rookie or a veteran, throughout this process. So thank you very much. I'm excited for the playoffs and excited to continue this improvement both in the next 2 weeks as well into Summer B. So thank you for viewing this video. This will be the online playoff meeting. We will go through some playoff clarifications, what to do when we have a tie ball game, because of course in the playoffs somebody has to win, somebody has to move on to win those t-shirts. We'll also talk about some points of emphasis down the road, and we'll have a discussion about some game management items. Please watch the video all the way through, and there will be a section that I will ask you to comment on towards the end. Here are your playoff clarifications for basketball. The only clarification is that we will play overtime if the game is tied at the end of regulation. In overtime, it is a 4-minute overtime period. If the score is tied at the end of 4 minutes, we will play another 4-minute overtime period, and we'll play as many periods as we have to until we finally do not have a tie. Clock will stop in the last 2 minutes of each overtime period. And we're going to start with a jump ball at the start of each overtime period as well. And the alternating possession arrow will start just like at the beginning of the game. It will be determined from the jump ball. 1 timeout per overtime period, and timeouts do not carry over from regulation. So if they have a timeout left from regulation, that doesn't mean they have 2 in overtime. They still just have 1 timeout per overtime period. There's no differences in the playoffs for dodgeball. Those will work just like they did in the regular season. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or give me a call. Here are some points of emphasis for basketball and dodgeball. First, call the obvious. These are the calls that will mess up a game for an official if we miss. 2 hands in the back. A guy obviously getting hit in the head as he drives to the basket. Somebody getting knocked to the ground. Bodies on the ground. The obvious contact plays are what makes or breaks our games. We have to get the obvious calls. And it can come from a non-primary official if it has to. If you're the trail or at lead and we have an obvious foul in center's primary zone, but for some reason he or she misses it, those are the calls that we can come in and get out of our primaries because they're calls that we cannot live without. Second, move to improve. We've done a great job of basic positioning and understanding what the roles of a lead official and a center official and a trail official are and where our home bases are, for instance, being free throw line extended for center or being on the baseline for lead. The next step is to move to improve. So once you get to that basic positioning, You have to move to be able to see the space in between players, to be able to see if contact is made. So a step to the right, a step to the left, a step up, a step down. Do what you need to do to get into a better position to make the call. Third, start, develop, finish. We have to see the entire play before we can make a call. So we see the start of it. If it's a drive to the basket, we see the drive. Then we see the play develop. We see the contact or no contact. And then we see the finish. So what actually happened? Did the player absorb the contact but play through it and lay the ball into the basket easily? If so, we don't need a call. But did that contact cause him to be displaced and then miss the layup? Then we need a foul call in that instance. So let the play start, develop, and then finish. We shouldn't have a whistle until the play is finished. Finally, take control of the game when needed, especially as we move on to the playoffs, and we'll talk about this later in the video. We have a danger of games getting out of hand based on the intensity of the game. We have to match our intensity and our focus with the intensity of the game. So, when we get in the playoff game and it's heated, if there's a situation where we have to come in and make a big call, or have to come in and take control or sell a call, or calm somebody down, we can't be afraid to step out and take control. Dun 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 dun! The game control thermometer, everybody's favorite game management metaphor. In all seriousness, the game control thermometer is a nice way to kind of picture the intensity of a game that we are officiating. It's important as an official to be able to identify the intensity level of the game that we are currently in so that we can adapt our skills and our tools to that game and to keep the games under control. So intensity is defined as a high degree of emotional excitement. Especially as we get later in the playoffs, our levels of intensity tend to rise. Games get closer, more competitive, higher, better skilled, and teams may know each other, talk back and forth with each other because, of course, in intramurals, everybody wants that t-shirt. And we'll talk about some ways to combat that intensity and keep that intensity under control in this video. What causes the intensity of a game to rise? As officials, we have to be cognizant of these situations and recognize the situations that are going to make players heated, emotional, and the intensity to continue to rise. So game situations. Is it close? What's the score? How much time is left? Is a team coming back? Is it a last-second shot? These situations are going to affect intensity. Hard contact. Has it been a physical game? Was there just a hard foul? Was there an intentional foul? In soccer, did somebody get a yellow card or a red card because of a hard foul? Those situations are gonna make people heated. Trash talk, taunting, talking between players, bad blood between players, big plays, huge goals, huge dunks. Do the teams know each other? Are they rival teams? These are just some examples of things that will happen in a game that will raise the level of intensity. If you have other examples, please comment on the Facebook page. So what's the danger of the intensity rising? Danger is the game getting out of hand. So either players getting out of hand, fights breaking out, or us as officials not keeping up with the level of the game. So as that intensity rises, and we'll talk about some of those tools that we can use as officials a little bit later, but we have to be cognizant of where our game is at on the thermometer. The game management toolkit. We talked about identifying when games will get more intense. And that's great, but identify is only the first step. Now we have to act. So what do we do when the game starts to get out of hand? And that's what we'll talk about with our toolkit, a list of tools that you have in your back pocket to go to when the game gets rough. Here's your starters kit. First, your voice. Cannot emphasize how important your voice is in keeping a game under control. Whether it's selling a call, showing confidence, communicating with your partner,
communicating with players, communicating with the table or the scorer. Your voice is your number one go-to tool to pull out of your belt and use when you have a game that's getting heated. We cannot go silent. Next is your vision. You have to see the play. We have to be in position to see plays. We also have to be on the lookout for those situations that are going to raise our thermometer, raise the temperature. Okay? We have to see players during dead ball time. If there's a punch thrown, we have to see it. And we have to be hustling to get into the right spot to see the calls. Confidence. We have to have confidence in our calls, especially as we move on in the playoffs. There will be times when we have to sell calls, when we have to show confidence, when we have a big call we have to make. And if we can't show confidence, there is nobody that's going to believe us. Our credibility is shot. And once that happens, that game is going to get out of control very quick. Finally, hustle. Hustle, hustle, hustle. It goes with our attitude and effort. But if players see us slouching, if they see us being lazy, jogging up and down the court, walking up and down the court or the field, they are going to lose all confidence in us, and rightfully so, because we will not be in the right place to make accurate calls. Now it's your turn. We've talked about the game intensity thermometer. We've talked about your starters kit for your game management toolkit. I'd like you to comment with your answers to these two questions. First, how do you adapt your officiating between low intensity and high intensity games? What are the differences? What do you look for that's different between the two? Second, what other game management tools do you use to keep games under control? What are some tricks that you have? What are your go-to moves? Every official has to build their own toolkit, and every official does it differently. So what's your story? Thank you for watching the video. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, please give me a call, send me an email. I'm always here, and hopefully we'll have a great playoff run. I'm excited again. Check when to work. Your schedule for week 1 is already up.